Hello, welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot. And today I am bringing you a tarot deck review, and this is the Dark Mansion Tarot. So this is not a brand new deck. This is a deck that I got at the start of last year, at the very beginning of 2019, and it's a copyright 2018 deck. I believe it is still available, and it comes from Taroteca Studios, which I think ships from Poland. So it's not a cheap deck. It I think cost around £50 sterling. When you factored in the shipping from Poland. I guess if you're living further afield, that might be a little bit more expensive. So this is kind of classed as an indie deck. There was a few different editions that came out at the time. This is not the kind of luxury edition. There was one that had larger cardstock. I think there might have been a rose petal finish as well. But this is kind of the standard edition. So it is illustrated by Magdalena Kazan, and the box also credits for production and substantive consultations Krzysztof Waziuk. So I've probably mispronounced both of those names, but it's often, this deck is just talked about as being from Taroteca Studios. The individuals involved, I don't often hear talked about, but the credits are are just there inside the box. So as you can see, this is in a really nice hard hinged box, and I don't often see a hinged box. I don't know how long it would stand up, over years and years of use, but it seems pretty hardy. And it's nice that the box is all one section or one piece. And yeah, so this was really this was the hot deck at the start of 2019, and I must admit, I got this in a sort of a fit of FOMO, for sure. This was definitely was kind of early in my, is that a card? I think that is yes, I think that's like an index card that's in the bottom there. But there was always one card getting stuck in the bottom of the box, so I put the index card in the bottom, so that would be the card that got stuck. So there's something underneath that, but I can't see what it is right now. Yeah, sorry, I'll not waste time trying to pick that out. But yes, I do remember I used to have it sitting face down in the bottom of the deck, and the bottom card would always get stuck. So that has solved that problem. So as you can see, the box is lovely, and it has this gold foil stamping on the front, and that sort of design on the front of the box. It's not one of the cards, which I quite like. Sometimes there's just an image from the deck on the front of the box, and it's nice that this is something else. It does sort of capture the tone of the deck, I guess. We have a kind of fortune teller in her booth, and that sort of, maybe there's a kind of a lightheartedness to that translates and sort of carries through the rest of the deck. So there are different versions of this deck that have different back designs. There's one that has a back that is closer to sort of these kind of brown and taupe colors, and a sort of a jewel in the middle. Anyway, if you're interested, you can find the different options on the website. This is the standard size. There, I think, was a larger size. So just to give you a sense, that's my hand. So it's kind of a fairly standard tarot deck size. I think it's just slightly wider than maybe, like a mass market, like US Games or Llewellyn's deck size. I think it's just a slightly wider card, but the height is similar. So it has this really nice matte black edging, which has held up really well, as you can see. Although even though I've had this since the beginning of last year, I have not used this very much, and that's why just coming into October, and coming up to Halloween, I thought I really need to get this deck out and really work with it. You can see there that the full card has got slightly chipped on the edge, the starting to flake very slightly. So maybe a lot of rough overhand shuffling over time would create some damage, but you know, and with it being an expensive deck, I guess it merits being handled with some care. I find it a little bit stiff to riffle shuffle, but again, that could be because it's still a deck that is not been heavily used. The matte finish has really zero glare, as you can see. You know, there's it's a really absolute matte finish, and sort of from any angle, there's really no shine on it at all. So I think that's something that people like. For me, it is a bit clumpy. I like to be able to thumb through a deck and look at the cards like this, yeah, and to be able to push them one at a time. And as you can see, I am really struggling to do that here. Like, they are clumping up in groups of 10 or 3s or 2s. And even with fewer in the pile, you know, to try to actually go through them one by one is really quite hard. They are quite clumpy, and that's maybe something that I don't particularly like about this deck. Even to overhand shuffle, it is a little bit clumpy. So I would tend to riffle. I kind of corner riffle. I'm not going to do it now because I'll put them out of sequence, but I tend to, you know, sort of do that to shuffle this deck to make sure I'm getting a really good mix, because even to overhand shuffle, I think it is a little bit clumpy. So in terms of the art then, the aesthetic of this deck is famously discussed as being quite Tim Burton-esque. There is now a Nightmare Before Christmas tarot deck, but before there was, I think this was a deck that everybody felt kind of fell into that aesthetic. I think it's a bit more colorful than that. You know, it's a bit more colorful, a bit more cartoonish. But I'm not a particular fan of The Nightmare Before Christmas, so I'm not overly familiar with it. I watched it once years ago. But that sort of this very angular, you know, the people are very angular. The color, you know, there's a kind of a sinister but cartoonish vibe to the whole deck. It is Rider-Waite-Smith based, and these are a couple of the cards that I really like in this deck. The queens are generally really nicely done, very detailed and really colorful. You know, so look at her beautiful robes and, you know, the little rabbit and the wooden throne. Like, there's a lot of really nice detail there. I also love this Queen of Wands, you know, with the fiery background behind her and the very direct gaze. Well, she's really lovely. This Nine of Swords is great. You know, the big nightmare monster. I guess that is one of my favorite cards in this whole deck. And I really like the Three of Wands. You know, she's ready to go off on an adventure. Maybe she's hailing the stagecoach or whatever, you know, to take her somewhere, or she's maybe just been dropped off in a new location to have a new adventure. I really quite like that one. But the art is really consistently, you know, if you like that art, like, that's the way the art is throughout the whole deck. So those are some of the cards that I like. I'll see here, I'll maybe show you the aces for the different suits. So, you know, there again, it's really nicely consistently designed. They're each on like a little plinth. And, you know, you've got the sort of colours and the scene that reflect the suit. You know, so the aces work really nicely. And the cards within the suits are very Rider-Waite-Smith based. So, you know, there's your juggler for the pentacles, Three of Pentacles collaborating, Four of Pentacles, Five of Pentacles out in the snow, Seven of Pentacles waiting for the vines to ripen. You know, Knight of Pentacles, woman in her garden with the bird. Like they're very Rider-Waite-Smith based. The major arcana, there's some hits and misses for me in the majors. Like I don't really like clowns, I guess. So like the Fool being a clown, you know, it's okay. I just don't really like it that much. The Magician, the High Priestess, you know, so it's basically, as you can see, like a redrawing of the Rider-Waite-Smith images, but with these just really angular, very thin, kind of doll like big eyes, big heads. Sorry, they're difficult to flip through because of the sort of sticking together. He's pretty sinister, eh? The Hierophant. The Lovers is one that's kind of more Marseille based, with the sense of the two different women and the choice being presented in the Lovers, which is interesting that they went that way with the Lovers. Chariot, really like the strength, that orange. The Hermit. So I mean, there are lots of full walkthroughs of this deck on other channels, so I'm not going to go beyond the majors. The Hanged Man being a bat. So some people, I think, really, really enjoy the kind of whimsy and the cartoonish quality to these images, and you know, the fact that it is Rider-Waite-Smith makes it very easy to read. This is not a deck that comes with a book, so you know, you have to use your pre-existing knowledge of the tarot to be able to read the cards. For me, I don't know if it always works, and I don't know if it's because I generally don't enjoy fantasy themed decks, you know, so things like dragons or fairies, or, you know, I don't really go for that type of deck. I like, my favorite decks are quite real world based, like the Lightseers Tarot or the Gaian Tarot, you know, where they show modern scenes, like modern life. I kind of tend to prefer that type of deck. So it could be that it's just, this is not particularly what speaks to me in tarot. And maybe it's the fact that there is no book to really explain the choices of art. But it maybe, I don't want to insult anybody, but it maybe feels a little bit superficial, a little bit shallow to me. Like it's a beautiful aesthetic redrawing of the tarot, and consistently kind of works with this kind of dark mansion, haunted house theme. You know, it carries it through really well, but I don't know if it speaks to me as a tarot, if that makes sense. I mean, like the small things, like the Temperance Angel pouring, you know, that's just pouring. You know, there's the cups. I like when it's magical. Like the pouring is impossible. You know, and again, that Devil, like she's really cool and really really beautifully drawn. But yeah, I worked with this deck for, I decided to make it be my deck of choice for a month. Yeah, the Star. I mean, maybe to some people that's really beautiful, but I'm just not sure. I worked with it for a month, and I'm not quite at the end of October, and I've brought out another deck. I found as I was reading, you know, doing daily draws with it, or even doing, you know, bigger spreads, pick a card readings. Like I think I did one pick a card reading for my channel with this deck, and I filmed another one, but I haven't uploaded it yet. And I will watch it back, and I may upload it before the end of the month. But there's something, it just never seem to speak to me in the way that other decks do sometimes. Like, and I mean, I do really like this Judgment, like the angels playing the saxophone to wake the dead, and the dead are partying, dancing. It's really fun. It's a really fun version of Judgment, but it's maybe not like it feels maybe more in the realm of, like, say, the Housewives Tarot, which is a kind of fun party deck kind of thing, rather than like a very deep tarot deck for me. Whereas, I know other people who've worked with the deck and find it reads beautifully. So, it could be just me. So it's not a deck that I, even through the month of October, I started using another deck alongside it, for some of my personal readings. And yeah, I haven't felt drawn, since I bought it, I never really felt drawn to work with it. And then even through the month of October, I haven't felt like I consistently really wanted to work with it, and I was distracted by other decks. So it's possibly that this is just maybe not for me. In terms of, rehoming it, as people say, selling it or trading it, I don't know if I can, but then at the same time, because it is so beautiful. I mean, it's a really lovely art, but I don't know. And then another thing about this deck that's maybe not my favorite is that it's not a particularly diverse deck. Like, so the aesthetic that they've chosen to go with is all the characters. I mean, there are a lot of people. I mean, there are a lot of skeletons as well. And kind of the clown and the sort of magical characters and so on. So it's not a deck that's attempting to depict the real world or to be in any way realistic, but it isn't a diverse deck. All the characters are white. The family and relationships that are depicted are all kind of heterosexual relationships and traditional gender associations with the courts, with a male page and a male knight and a female queen and a male king. So the depictions are, so there's the 10. So the 10 of Cups, you've got the woman and man and a little boy and a little girl, very sort of traditional 2.4 children, a male page, a male knight, female queen, male king, kind of older man, I guess. But it's not a deck that's attempted to reflect reality. It's got its own sort of cartoonish world, and that's not a particularly diverse world. So if that's maybe an area where the deck is not so attractive. Just so I don't know. I feel like the overall tone of this review has been quite negative, and I know this is a very popular deck, and I do really like it, and I do really like the art. But as a tarot deck, for me, it hasn't really clicked this time. So I might add it to my list of maybe pass on, maybe trade, maybe. I've got so many other more I don't know what the word is. I have so many more decks that I connect with better. So it's if you like the art, this may be completely up your street, but for me, it's not the best reading tarot deck that I have. Okay, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. And if you've persevered this long, thank you so much for watching. And if you'd like to see more honest tarot deck reviews, please do subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to create a list of the deck reviews as I post them in my playlist. So there should be a little playlist of Oracle and tarot deck reviews if you want to click on that tab if you'd like to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you back here again soon.